All right, shalom, shalom. My name is YAH. I'm with Savior Word of Yah, Tabernacles of the Congregation of Yisrael. We are part of Yah's Kingdom, and the title of today's Bible study is War for Crimes. War for Crimes. What we have to understand is that, war is something that's been here. We're told in Matthew 24 that there's wars and there'll be rumors of wars, so forth and so on. But a lot of these wars are judgment. Like even the children of Yasharal, when were not operating according to righteousness, we faced war. We had judgment. We'd have no peace in our land. So when the other nations are being judged, there's going to be war involved. So understanding that there's a time for everything, let's open up in Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Now, of course, with what's going on in Russia and Ukraine, we want to understand, which we did a little bit last Bible study, who Russia was. Russia being Gog and Magog and the Medes in that USSR region of Russia or whatever, all those little areas up there. We have to understand who Ukraine is. So before we get started, let's take a look at Ukraine. Let's just take a look at the map. We want to share the screen, and we're going to take a look at the map before we get into Ecclesiastes chapter 3. So let's pull up Ukraine. Let's take a look at Ukraine, where Ukraine is, because a lot of us didn't even know where Ukraine was to begin with. So let's go ahead and share the screen, and let's see Ukraine on the map. All right. Ukraine, let's see. Bear with me 1 second. Trying to pull it up on the screen. For whatever reason, it's pulling up. Okay, there we go. All right, so here we have a map of Ukraine. Ukraine is above the Black Sea. If you take a look here, Crimea, that's a real important port. A lot of the military equipment and things come in through the Black Sea right in this area right here. So what people don't understand about Ukraine is also one of the second largest Europe. It's the second largest country as land mass. So there's a lot of population. Russia obviously is Ukraine. And interestingly enough, on in Ukraine is just judgment, a lot of judgment. So now what you have now is you have Ukraine forcing their males to stay. So their males got to stay and fight. Anybody over a certain age, you can't even leave. They need you to stay and fight. Matter of fact, they even tried to get some Africans asking them to fight, which of course the Africans, bro, we're not Ukrainian. We're not fighting for y'all. But Ukraine is forcing their men. Now, what this caused the problem with is the transgender community, the LGBT, trans women that have changed themselves from women into men. So their license says that they're men, but their DNA, regardless of what they change, still say that they're women, but yet they're being forced to stay. So, that's a bit of a judgment there. Hey, you wanted to be a man, and now your country is asking you, you wanted to put man on your driver's license. Well, step up like a man and fight your country. And of course, the transgender, like, whoa, wait a minute. No, we just look like this. We not really men. They ain't trying to fight. They ain't trying to have that smoke. So there's a lot of judgment going on in that country. So again, just to get an idea where Crimea is, you see Russia over here to the top right, and it's down southeast of Russia, right above the Black Sea. So I'm going to show you something else here. I'm going to show you where who those people are, who used to be in that area. Is real important to understand who those people are in that area. Now, we know a lot of Russians are in Khazaria, are in Russia, a lot of Russians there. And the ancient people that were there were called Khazars, and the area used to be called Khazaria. So we're going to pull that up. The Khazars are from what we understand, are the Ashkenazi Jews, are those Jewish people from Europe that have that claim that they came from the Middle East, which we know that's not true, but are in that area. So those are Khazarians that stay where Ukraine is. So let's pull that up. Let's look at a map of Khazaria so we can see exactly where that is. So if we pull up that map and we share Khazaria, you see here, go to Black Sea right there. There's Crimea right here again, that port, the little area where a lot of the military comes in. So you see this right here, this is all that's Ukraine. So how coincidental in this time, at the time of judgment, because that's the time that we're at, after the 400 years, that nation whom you serve will I judge, that the same people that took our identity, end up taking our land, are now fighting to stay in the land of their nativity, their actual area where they're from, even though they're there claiming to be Jews. And even the president, Zelensky, even he's Jewish. So this is not a coincidence. So while, we don't pray for war to happen to anybody, we don't pray for anybody to be hurt or injured or anything of that nature, we have to understand the Bible prophesies what is going to happen. And if you go send into captivity, you're going to go into captivity. So just so you understand what's going on, is deeper than what we think. Whatever the media is telling you, again, understand that the media is only giving you partial truths. They're not telling you everything that's going on. And I'm not claiming to be on the side of Russia or claiming to be on the side of Ukraine. All we know is that they're lying. And we know who they are in biblical history. You got the Russians, which are partly the same people as the Khazarians and the Ukrainians. They're a mixture of those same people. The Russians, Gog and Medes, and Khazaria is Ukraine. So just taking a look at that, I'm not going to go too deep into that because there's just so much we don't know, but it's not a coincidence. And it's not a coincidence either that now they putting this yellow and blue everywhere. And we so-called had the Los Angeles Rams win the Super Bowl with yellow and blue. So, I mean, there's a lot of predictive programming things that they do to foreshadow, because the devil likes to foreshadow what he's doing. So let's get into the study. Let's go to Ecclesiastes chapter 3. Ecclesiastes chapter 3. And again, the title of the Bible study is War for Crimes. And we're going to Ecclesiastes chapter 3. And we're going to start that at verse 1. So let's go ahead and pull up the scripts. Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 1. To everything there's a season and a time and a purpose under the heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones together. a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to get and a time to lose, a time to keep and a time to cast away, a time to rend and a time to sow, a time to keep silence and a time to speak, a time to love and a time to hate, a time of war and a time of peace. So there's a time for everything. And right now we're in this judgment period time. And in this judgment period time, how Yah usually judges nations is through war. Through war. So the nations are being judged now. Israel had its 400 years of judgment. So now the nations are facing their judgment for their hand and what Yah allowed to happen to the children of Israel. So this time, the problem with time is we try to hold on to past time. We try to hold on to what has already passed. You can't say, I'm going to keep wearing sweaters, but time done passed. It's all the way in the summer. You're going to be too hot. It's not going to be fitting for you. So the problem is we always trying to hold on to a time that's not now. So we have to prepare for the time that's ahead of us and act appropriately into the time that we're in. And what we see right now is a lot of unrest in the earth. These two countries going at it, which is eventually going to pull everybody into it. And the most immediate thing we're seeing now is these gas prices. These gas prices are skyrocketing, and many of us are hurting in the pocket. But the people that's being hurt the worst are typically not us, because we used to struggling for money. We used to having little. We used to having some kind of issue or some kind of hill to climb. So we'll overcome. It's nothing new. We'll overcome. So let's go to Genesis chapter 15, and we're just going to read 2 verses here. Bereshit, Genesis chapter 15, and we're just going to read 13 and 14 just to see what time we're in. So Bereshit, Genesis chapter 15 and verse 13. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that your seed shall be a stranger in a land that's not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. So we know that we got here in August 20th of 1619, and August 21st of 2019 was 400 years. Went over the 400-year mark. So we had our 400 years in a strange land, being a stranger in a land that's not ours. And we were afflicted. Verse 14, and this is where we're at now. And also that nation whom they shall serve will I judge. So that's where we're at now. So we had the 400 years, and now we're in the judgment of the nation that we served. Now, of course, there's many nations, but at the end of the day, there's really only 2 nations. You have the nation of Yisrael, Yah's kingdom, and you have the Goyim, every other nations. Now, the nation of Yisrael and the kingdom of Yah, kingdom against kingdom, is one. And anybody that wants to affix themselves to that through Yah's righteousness. But the devil's kingdom is anything else left, because it says even the nations that do continue on, and when everybody goes to their own land, they still have to come up to Jerusalem and bring their offerings for the Feast of Tabernacles. So at the end of the day, you're going to be part of Yah's kingdom, or you will cease to get rain. So that nation is being judged. The nation that is being controlled by the adversary, the devil, that nation is being judged. And that nation has strongholds in many other nations. So that's what has to happen first. That nation has to be judged, and everybody that's participating. Verse 14, and afterward they shall come out with great substance. So after the judgment period, that's when our nation comes out with great substance. Now, many of us are coming out beforehand to help set up and establish, and are fleeing in advance. But until the nation is judged, then we won't come out as an entire nation. So let's go to Exodus chapter 15. Exodus, Shemot, chapter 15. And we got to understand how Yah operates, because I said that he operates through war. Exodus, Shemot, chapter 15. And we're going to start this at verse 1. Then sang Moshe and the children of Yasharal this song unto Yahweh, and spake, saying, I will sing unto Yahweh, for he has triumphed gloriously. The horse and his rider has he thrown into the sea. Yahweh is my strength and song, and he is become my salvation. He is my Elohim, and I will prepare him a habitation, my father's all, and I will exalt him. Yahweh is a man of war. Yahweh is his name. So Yah is a powerful war structure. He's a man of war. He handles his things with absoluteness, either yay or nay. When you dead, that's it. You dead. There's no, well, I don't know, maybe. Nah, that's it. So that's how things get handled. Yah destroys. He sets up kings and he dethrones kings. So right now, what you have going on over there in Europe is war, judgment. Something is going to happen. Somebody's going to be dethroned. Something is going to change. All right, so let's go to Revelation chapter 19. So we see who's involved in making these wars. Revelation chapter 19. So again, as we did earlier in the class, we discussed, with this war going over on Russia, last Bible study, we showed you who Russia is. Russia is Gog and Magog, the Medes. And then today we showed you who Crimea is and who Ukraine is. Crimea, Ukraine, all that whole area, we showed you the map. That was ancient Khazaria, the Khazars. The Khazars are the same people that brought this a Zionist type movement where, with the Jewish star and Ashkenazi Jews and all that, and even calling themselves Ashkenazi, we showed you who that was as well. Ashkenazi is the son of Japheth. That's Germany. So Germany, Russia, Poland, Ukraine, that little area, those is what makes up the Ashkenazi Jews. Those are the Europeans that came down and were moved by the United Nations. The same people that's backing Ukraine right now are the same people that moved the Khazars into our land. So they took our land, they took our identity, and now they fighting for their own homeland and trying to maintain this new identity that they have, with even their president calling himself a Jew, Jewish. So this is not a coincidence that all this is happening right now. Revelation chapter 19, and we're going to start this at verse 11. And I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse. And he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True. And in righteousness he does judge and make war. So we know who this white horse rider is. It's not the fake white horse rider with this fake covenant. This is one who's called Faithful and True, which is his word. That's Yahweh Shai. And in righteousness does he judge and make war. So whereas one side may be coming against another side, and one may be in unrighteousness, or both of them may be in unrighteousness, it is Yahweh Shai, through Yah's instruction, that judges and makes war. That's why it's not for us to pick a side. We side with righteousness. That's with Yah and his judgment. Verse 12, his eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. And he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of Yah. And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. So he has an army that goes with him. The 144,000 go with him as he judges the nations and makes war. Verse 15, and out of his mouth goes a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations, and he shall rule them with a rod of iron, and he treads the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of the Almighty Elohim. So again, he's smiting the nations. He's not smiting us, he's smiting the nations. Verse 16, and he has on his vesture and on his thigh a name written, King of Kings and Adonai of Adonai. So again, Yah is a man of war. That's how he handles his business. And he does it through his word, through his son, Mashiach, who judges by this word and makes war by this word. So all the war that goes on, that's why he tells us, listen, don't worry. There's going to be wars and rumors of war because I'm judging. I'm judging the nations. Don't worry. This is just the beginning. The big war ain't come yet. This is just the beginning. So again, as we see all this stuff popping off over there in Europe, understand this is just the beginning. We've been at war. Let's go to Matthew chapter 10. Matthew chapter 10. So if you turn on the TV, you're going to see it on every channel on the news talking about Ukraine. Oh, you know, how bad is Ukraine this, Ukraine that. Well, understand who owns the media. Who owns the media? The Ashkenazi own the media. Now, is it the whole nation of the Jewish people? No, absolutely not. But it's the rich, the elite, usually of a family. And that family is spread across many countries because they own plenty of that stuff. So, of course, it's going to be on every channel. Of course, it's going to be any attack against Judaism is going to be on every channel like it's the end of the world. But what about all these other countries that's going through? What about the Congo? What about the Philippines? What about Venezuela? What about all these other places that's got oppression going on? South Africa. What about Nigeria, where they got ethnic cleansing going on? What about all those things? No, that's not important because it's not affecting the Ashkenazi. All right, so let's move on. We at Matthew chapter 10. We're going to start this at verse 16. Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. So Yahushua knew that we were going to be in the midst of these nations, these wolves. Now, and who's the wolf represent? Rome. Romulus was known to have been suckled by a wolf. That's their story. And that's how their nation came about. So we were going to be in this Roman Empire in the midst of wolves, being sheeps. And wolves are of the dog family, or the dogs are of the wolf line. So again, we're around these people with no laws, ravening wolves. And he told us, don't be a wolf, but he said, be wise as serpents, be subtle, understand what you're doing, but be harmless as doves. So even though we're amongst these wolves, we have to remain harmless. In other words, defend yourself if you have to, but don't be harm to anybody. You're only a harm to somebody that's trying to harm you. Verse 17, but beware of men, for they will deliver you up to councils, and they will scourge you in their synagogues. And you shall be brought before governors and kings for my sake, for a testimony against them and the Gentiles. So if you stand up for this word, hold what you got, stand up long enough and stay in this country and see what happens. You are going to be brought before governors and kings for the word's sake, because they're going to outlaw you being able to speak up for the word. And guess what? With this crash of this economy and this dollar system, they're going to bring in this cryptocurrency. Interesting. A dead crypt a dead currency, they're going to bring in this cryptocurrency. Now they control the money. Now you can't even stash money under your pillow or excuse me, under your bed or in a shoebox because it's digital now. They control everything. So they're going to know, even if you try to go on the run for whatever reason, they're going to know where you at by your money, by how you spend your money. But verse 19, but we are given how to deal with these things in advance. But when they deliver you up, take no thought how or what you shall speak, for it shall be given you in the same hour which you shall speak. So when you're going up against these things that are going on, this is bigger than you. Again, he judges and makes war through his righteousness. We just read that in Revelation. Mashiach, the word, the Most High, the man of war. So when he brings you into this part of the war where they have you prisoner, the Holy Spirit will speak for you. It's going to tell you what you need to say because you are a witness to the Gentiles. Verse 20, for it is not you that speak, but the Spirit of your Father, which speaks in you. And the brother shall deliver up the brother to death, and the father the child, and the children shall rise up against their parents and cause them to be put to death. And you shall be hated of all men for my name, for his character's sake. But he that endures to the end shall be saved. So he who endures to hold on to that word, to not allow that bitterness to stay harmless as doves to the end, which means the end of the Gentile rule, the end of when Mashiach returns, they shall be saved. All right, so let's move on from there. Let's go to Yeremiah. Excuse me, let's go to Ezekiel. Ezekiel chapter 29. Let's look at some of this judgment that's going on. So you can see how when YAH judges, what the results of that. Ezekiel chapter 29. Ezekiel chapter 29. So again, we talk about when we're being brought in front of people, in front of the judgment for Yahweh's sake, for this word, not to think of what we're going to say. It's going to be given to us in that very hour. So we have to understand that everything that's going on, it's for us to hold, not to start making judgments on these other nations and saying, oh, Russia is wicked. Oh, Ukraine is wicked. No, understand who they are biblically. Understand what the prophecy says and stick with that. But the judgments are, oh, free Ukraine. Oh, go Russia or whatever. Whoever people might be siding with. Now, ain't nobody siding with Russia. They ain't trying to say go Russia because they'd be cut off. But don't side with any of these people. None of these people are your nation. Yah is judging in the earth. He handles that business. He told us what's going to happen, and it's for us to sit back and not get caught in that judgment, because our law says don't rejoice when your enemy falls. At least he turns that judgment on you. So again, this is for us to know what's going on in the earth, know what prophecy says, and know where we stand. We don't stand with Russia. We don't stand with Ukraine. Russia is supposed to come here and destroy Babylon. And Ukraine was the Khazarians, the people that went and stole our whole identity and run the world, basically. Ezekiel chapter 29 and verse 1. In the 10th year, in the 10th month, in the 12th day of the month, the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, set your face against Pharaoh, king of Mizraim, and prophesy against him and against all Egypt. Speak and say, thus says the Adonai Elohim, behold, I am against you, Pharaoh, king of Mizraim, the great dragon that lies in the midst of his rivers, which has said, my river is mine own, and I have made it for myself. But I will put hooks in your jaws, and I will cause the fish of your rivers to stick unto your scales. And I will bring you up out of the midst of your rivers, and all the fish of your rivers shall stick unto your scales. And I will leave you thrown into the wilderness, you and all the fish of your rivers. You shall fall upon the open fields. You shall not be brought together nor gathered. I have given you for meat to the beasts of the field and to the fowls of the heaven. And all the inhabitants of Egypt shall know that I am Yahweh, because they have been a staff of reed to the house of Yasharal. When they took hold of you by the hand, you did break and rend all their shoulder. And when they leaned upon you, you breakest and made all their loins to be at a stand. Therefore, thus says Adonai Elohim, behold, I will bring a sword upon you and cut off man and beast out of you. So many of the judgment of a lot of these nations is what they did to the children of Yasharal. So even though this war ain't really about us, it's about us. These are the people that were in Psalms 83 that took crafty counsel against us, all these people. So these nations are going to be judged. So the only recourse the nations have is to accept the fact that their fathers have inherited lies and bow down to the Most High, Yah, through his word, Mashiach, which puts an order, which means they'll be serving the children of Israel. It is what it is. We're going to read that later. Verse 9. And the land of Egypt shall be desolate and a waste, and they shall know that I am Yahweh, because he has said, the river is mine, and I have made it. Behold, therefore I am against you and against your rivers, and make the land of Mizraim utterly waste and desolate, from the tower of Syene even unto the border of Ethiopia. Not foot of man shall pass through it, nor foot of beast shall pass through it, neither shall it be inhabited 40 years. And I will make the land of Mizraim desolate in the midst of the countries that are desolate, and her cities among the cities that are laid waste shall be desolate 40 years. And I will scatter the Mizrahites among the nations and will disperse them through the country. So that's what happened in Egypt. So when you go to Egypt right now, you don't see a lot of Egyptians. You see other people there that are not Egyptians. The Egyptians look like Israelites. Those Egyptians over there don't look like us. And if the Ashkenazi call themselves the true Jews, the Egyptians don't look like them either. So that's even more telling tale that those people are not Jews. The synagogue of Satan that call themselves Jews but are not. It don't fit anything. Prophecy says it all, and scripture details it all. So again, he says in verse 13, he's going to scatter the Mizrahites. Verse 14, and I will bring again the captivity of Mizraim, and will cause them to return into the land of Pathros, into the land of their habitation, and there shall be there a base kingdom. When the last time you heard about Egypt in the Olympics, or Egypt, the world power, or Egypt about to go to war with somebody because they in control or they defending themselves? Egypt is a base kingdom. It's a tourist spot. Once Yah is through with you, once we leave, that's it for you. Your nation will never be a superpower again. When last time you heard Greece running something? Or Italy running something? Rome? Nah, you don't hear that. They have to do it behind the scenes. Verse 16. And it shall be no more the confidence of the house of Yasharal, which brings their iniquity to remembrance, when they shall look after them, but they shall know that I am the Adonai Elohim. So no more running to Egypt. That's what we used to do in the times of ancient. We used to run to Egypt for help. Every time Yah was judging us by war because of our transgressions, we would run to the other nations, with Egypt being one of the principal nations we run to. Well, guess what? We do the same thing here. We always want to run to the government for help. Run for this, help me with this, help me with that, right? Well, he finna destroy this government so that we can't run to him. So when the judgment comes, we have no one to go to but the Most High. That's where our confidence is. That's where we're supposed to run to. Shalom, shalom, brother Darren Williams. Good to see you, family. All right, so let's move on. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 25. Let's go back a few verses, chapters. Ezekiel 25. All right, and he's going to go down the list now. He's going to show you some judgment that he's handing out to some of these nations. Ezekiel chapter 25 and verse 1. The word of Yahweh came again to me, saying, Son of man, set your face against the Ammonites and prophesy against them. And say unto the Ammonites, hear the word of the Adonai Elohim. Thus says the Adonai Elohim. So the Ammonites are Ammon, Moab and Ammon. So these are Lot's children, the children of incest. So this is an unrighteous nation, a nation that wasn't supposed to be here to begin with. Verse 4, behold, verse 3, and say unto the Ammonites, hear the word of the Adonai Elohim. Thus says the Adonai Elohim, because you said, aha, against my sanctuary when it was profane, and against the land of Yasharal when it was desolate, and against the house of Yehuda when they came into captivity, behold, therefore I will deliver you to the men of the east for possession. And they shall set their palaces in you and make their dwellings in you. They shall eat your fruit and they shall drink your milk. So that's what happened to that region. That region was inhabited by Arabs and different nations that came in and started to inhabit the ancient land of Moab and Ammon, which is right over on the other side of the Jordan, by the country Jordan. And it says, I will make Rabbah a stable for camels, and the Ammonites a couching place for flocks, and you shall know that I am Yahweh. For thus says Adonai Elohim, because you has clapped your hands and stamped with the feet and rejoiced in heart with all your despite against the land of Yasharal. Behold, therefore will I stretch out my hand upon you and will deliver you for a spoil to the heathen. And I will cut you off from the people and will cause you to perish out of the countries. I will destroy you, and you shall know that I am Yahweh. So Yahweh don't play that. When he judging the children of Israel, all them nations that stand by that laugh, all them nations that turn on the TV when they see us being judged and they see us in the courts getting 7 times the punishment and they see us getting killed in the street and they taking pleasure in that, guess what? Judgment is coming your way. So Yah is a righteous Elohim. So if he says he's going to do that to all those that laugh at our judgment, he going to do the same. If we sit here and laugh at the judgment of Ukraine and the judgment that comes to Babylon and to America, we can't laugh at those things. We have to understand that this is Yah's prophecy that's got nothing to do with our actions, everything to do with Yah's word and his prophecies. So again, do not laugh when these people get judged. Least he slow down that judgment and turn that judgment on us. Verse 8. Thus says Adonai Elohim, because that Moab and Seir do say, behold, the house of Yehuda is like unto all the heathen. So Moab, again, that is the Moabites. That is, again, the children of Lot. And Seir, when he's talking about Seir, he's talking about Edom. He's Esau, Mount Seir. He's talking about Esau, the Edomites. Therefore, behold, I will open the side of Moab from the cities, from his cities which are on his frontiers, the glory of the country, Beth Yeshimoth, Baal Meon, and Kiriathaim, unto the men of the east with the Ammonites, and will give them in possession, that the Ammonites may not be remembered among the nations. And they not. Where are the Ammonites? So nobody know what nation is the Ammonites. We don't know. Verse 11, and I will execute judgments upon Moab, and they shall know that I am Yahweh. Thus says the Adonai Elohim. And this is why Adonai is speaking, because he judges and makes war based on Yah's word, because he is Yah's word. Thus says the Adonai Elohim, because that Edom have dealt against the house of Yehuda by taking vengeance, and has greatly offended and revenged himself upon them. Therefore, thus says the Adonai Elohim, I will also stretch out my hand upon Edom and will cut off man and beast from it. And I will make it desolate from Teman, and they of Dedan shall fall by the sword. And I will lay my vengeance upon Edom by the hand of my people Yasharal, and they shall do in Edom according to mine anger and according to my fury, and they shall know my vengeance, says the Adonai Elohim. Now pair that with Isaiah 63. Woo! Pair that with Isaiah 63 when Mashiach comes back, and his white, pure white garment is dipped in blood. And we read in Revelations that he has his host with him. And we also know in Revelation the 144 is with them. So we know who the 144 is. We know that's the children of Israel. So he's talking about his people will do to Edom according to Yah's anger. Verse 15. Thus says Adonai Elohim, because the Philistine has dealt by revenge and have taken revenge with the despiteful heart to destroy it for the old hatred. Therefore, thus says the Adonai Elohim, behold, I will stretch out my hand upon the Philistines, and I will cut off the Kerethims and destroy the remnant of the seacoast. And I will execute great vengeance upon them with furious rebukes, and they shall know that I am Yahweh when I shall lay my vengeance upon them. So he has his vengeance against Edom. So let's read about that vengeance against Edom. Let's go to Obadiah chapter 1. Obadiah chapter 1. Obadiah chapter 1 and verse 1. The vision of Obadiah. Thus says the Adonai Elohim concerning Edom. We have heard a rumor from Yahweh, and an ambassador sent among the heathen. Arise you and let us rise up against her in battle. And this is a much heated debate amongst the children of Yasharal on Edom. And it's one of those things that, you know, why we're told not to argue over bloodlines and, you know, lineages and things of such, because a lot of these people that got judged already, they were scattered, just like Israel. They were scattered into these other nations and started to mate with these other nations. So they're all over the place. So whereas all of them were black at some point, eventually, as something happened in the earth, many of them started to become lighter in complexion. So we know Edom mixed with Kittim, which is Greece and Rome and Italy in that area. We know that they mixed with those people. And in the mixing of those people, we know that they also got some of our characteristics. And we also know that they got some of the European characteristics. They mixed. So you can't just say, oh, well, all black people are the children of Israel. And you can't say all white people are Edom. But you do know the characteristic of Edom is that they hate their brother without a cause. Verse 2. Behold, I have made you small among the heathen. You are greatly despised. The pride of your heart have deceived you, you that dwells in the clefts of the rock, whose habitation is high, that says in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? So now when you read the description of them, this is a spirit that's identifying Edom. Though you exalt yourself as the eagle, and though you set your nest among the stars, there will I bring you down, says Yahweh. If thieves came to you, if robbers by night, how are you cut off? Would they not have stolen till they had enough? If the grape gatherers came to you, would they not leave some grapes? How are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? All the men of your confederacy have brought you even to the border. The men that were at peace with you have deceived you and prevailed against you. They that eat your bread have laid a wound under you. There is none understanding in him. Now, again, we know that Edom mixed with Kittim, which is Greece, Italy, Rome, that area. We know that they mixed with them. And we know in Psalms 83, they made a crafty council, a confederacy against the children of Yasharal. So all those nations that joined with them, just like the United Nations, that's all joining with Ukraine, while Khazaria has this confederacy. Well, guess what? What happened to Khazaria? Them same people that had a confederacy turned against them. And that's what happened to the fall of Khazaria. Well, the same thing is going to happen to the fall of Edom, the Edomites that are in the earth this day. All them people that they made confederacy through their banking system that they own, that they control, are going to turn on them in the day of Yah's anger, because every man going to go for himself. He going to be trying to save his own behind as they go back to their own land. Verse 8, shall I not in that day, says Yahweh, even destroy the wise men out of Edom and understanding out of Mount Esau? And your mighty men, O Teman, shall be dismayed, and the end that every one of the Mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. Here's why. For your violence against your brother Jacob, shame shall cover you, and you shall be cut off forever. What violence is this? This is the violence that he did while we were in biblical, in early biblical times, in Genesis time, but also for what he did in the late biblical times, which is now, by financing them slave ships, by financing both sides of every war, by financing the civil rights movement, by financing the hatred movements. Verse 11, in the day that you stood on the other side, and the day that the strangers carried away captive his forces, and foreigners entered into his gates and cast lots upon Jerusalem, even you was one of them. But you should not have looked on the day of your brother, the day that he became a stranger. Neither should you have rejoiced over the children of Yehuda in the day of their destruction. Neither should you have spoken proudly in the day of his distress. You should not have entered into the gate of my people and the day of their calamity. And that's what Khazaria did. They entered into the gates of Yasharal. They entered into our homeland and took our heritage and took our names and called themselves Ashkenazi Jews. How you going to be Ashkenazi and Jew? Those two things are contradictory. Now they took off this Ashkenazi, they took off the Khazarian part. They didn't want, because history and the bones show who those people were. Those people actually have a claim to the Middle East. Neither should you have stood in the crossway to cut off those that did escape. Neither should you have delivered up those of his that did remain in the day of his distress. For the day of Yahweh is near upon all the heathen. As you has done, it shall be done unto you. Your reward shall return upon your own head. So again, this is not just Edom. This is all the heathen, all them nations. They finna come together to one accord, and they finna get dealt with on one accord. All of them for what they did to the children of Yasharal. So how coincidental? Same people who converted to Judaism and later took our whole identity. Now they fighting for their own identity in their homeland, fighting to not be carried away captive. Verse 16, for as you have drunk upon my holy mountain, so shall all the heathen drink continually. Yea, they shall drink and they shall swallow down, and they shall be as though they had not been. All right, so let's go to the conclusion. Let's see our restoration. YAH. We're going to read two verses, Isaiah 14, and we're going to read 1 through 2. So again, this is why we need to stand away. We don't need to put our hands in this war. We don't need to be praying for Ukraine or praying for Russia to destroy Ukraine or Ukraine to destroy it. Don't let the media pull you into all that crap. This is their judgment. Just like we told you in 2019 when this judgment was coming. This ain't about us. This is about the judgment of the nations. They are being judged. Let Yah's hand play itself out. We need to focus on what this time is for us. This is nation time for us. This is a time for us to gather ourselves, O nation not desired. This is a time for us to prepare for Jacob's trouble, which is coming ahead of us. That's the time. But this is what's coming our way. Isaiah chapter 14, and we're going to read 1 through 2 for the conclusion. For Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Yasharal and set them in their own land. So again, we read Genesis chapter 15, verse 13 through 14. Know you not that your seed will be a stranger in a land that's not theirs, and shall serve them and afflict them for 400 years. And also that nation whom you served will I judge. Then afterwards you shall come out with great substance. So again, the judgment is happening. We told you judgment was coming. We went down, and this is on YouTube. If you go to the Israelite Gathering YouTube page, you can look this up. My elder and I and my brothers, we went to Washington, D.C. on the anniversary of August 20th, 2019. And we proclaimed what the Bible said, that judgment was coming your way. It's here. But until that judgment is completed, we will not be leaving as a nation. So this is the process of the judgment. Let Yah do his thing, stay out the way, and prepare to enter your land. And you prepare to enter your land by getting rid of Babylon in your heart, in your mind, and start. And if you can make your way over to that side of the land, then make your way over to our land. Start to prepare to enter into the Holy Land. But until this judgment is over, we're not leaving as a nation. Verse 2. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place. Oh, excuse me. The end of verse 1. And let's start over verse 1. For Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Yasharal and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined with them. So that whole doctrine that only Israel's going to be saved and all the heathen going to die, that's not biblical. That's not consistent with Bible scriptures. It's not prophetic. It don't fit any of this. It says right there, strangers going to be joined with them. Strangers is not Jacob, and strangers is not Israel. Strangers are the other nations. Shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Yasharal shall possess them in the land of Yahweh for servants and handmaids. So a lot of people don't like that. They don't want to hear that we are going to possess the other nations for servants and handmaids. But what would you rather be? You rather be a so-called free man in this land getting oppressed? Or would you rather be a servant and a handmaid in a land of righteousness where you'll be treated fairly, where you'll have peace? We're not going to be whipping and knocking people's teeth out and doing all the foolishness that the Goyim did. They lord over their people. We don't do that. Yeah, we might be in position of authority, but we rule in righteousness. The end of verse 2, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. So all these people that oppressed us, all these nations, we will rule over them. But before that happens, let them fight amongst each other. Yah is doing the judgment. He's letting the war. Let them war. Let them do what they do. You stand out the way. You focus on what he has for us, which is a nation, for us to become a nation. So again, let's understand who's at stake, who's playing, who's in this war, so that we know what's happening prophetically. But let's keep our hands clean. Let's stay out of this. Let's keep our focus on publishing this word to the four corners of the earth, preparing for these hard times to come, and waking up our brothers and sisters and any other goyim or Gentiles that want to learn the truth. That's our focus, not this world war and what they got going on. Let them do what they gonna do. Judgment's gonna play out. Yahweh Shai told us, wars and rumors of wars. This is just the beginning. So again, hopefully this helped keep things in perspective. Just a word of announcement. We have our new year coming up. It will be Tuesday, the 15th at night. So at nightfall, we'll be beginning Abib Day 1. And how you know that is the equal day and equal night. You have equal day and equal night right around that time. And the next day is your new year, which will help us to get into our holy days. So that's all we're going to do today. Yah's we'll see you for Shabbat. And everybody should be, making sure that you're preparing your food supply, that you're preparing some water supply, and that you understand these gas prices about to get real ridiculous. So again, just brace yourselves, but understand that Yah got us. So that's all we're going to do today. Yah's we'll see you on Shabbat. Shalom.